Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Davidicus Wong, family doctor in Burnaby, and I'd like to introduce Leona Cullen. So she's the backbone behind our Burnaby Division of Family Practice Empowering Patients program. It's our public health education program that we started through the Burnaby Divisions of Family Practice. Originally, we did it at schools and libraries and community centers throughout Burnaby in person until the pandemic. But we've been able to reach an even bigger audience by doing it online, although I do miss seeing you guys in person. So hopefully we'll have a mixture of both in the coming years. So I'd like to introduce you to Leona. She does so many things for the division and for our community, but she has some useful resources about the Burnaby Primary Care Network and the Burnaby Division of Family Practice.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Wong, and welcome and Happy New Year, everybody. Really pleased to be here with you for our first Empowering Patient Talk of 2025. And as Dr. Wong mentioned, we do have many resources. We're very fortunate in Burnaby to have a wonderful group of doctors, including our Dr. Wong, and wonderful resources available now to our family physicians. And if you're fortunate enough to have one of our doctors, then those things sort of are available to you. So the first, I'm going to use the chat. So keep an eye on the chat. I'm going to post a bunch of links. The first one will be our main Empowering Patients page, which lists our upcoming talks. We've got talks scheduled till April. And then I will note, since we're in 2025, that Walk with Your Doc will be happening in May. So we're just waiting to finalize the date for that. But that's when we actually can get together and go for a walk and hang out with some of our Burnaby family doctors. And we usually are lucky and we get a good day for that. So our main page includes our upcoming schedule, and it has recordings of other talks. So you can go through those talks, and if there's some topics that are interest to you, you can watch the recording. So we record all these sessions. The next page is the other resources page, which includes a copy of every presentation that Dr. Wong puts together for these talks, and an information sheet where Dr. Wong basically highlights the high level things that you can download it, you can print it, you can email it to your friends and family. So it's wonderful information that's free to share. And I've also recently, Dr. Wong actually has articles quite regularly in the Burnaby Now and other local papers. And so if you look at our other resource page, you'll notice that I've included his relevant talk articles to these talks. So there was one from, I believe it came out on Monday this week. And so I've shared that in there. So they're really good reads. They're really helpful. So, and then if you are looking for a family doctor in Burnaby, I will say that there is a significant wait. But to partner that, I just found out yesterday that we've here in Burnaby, our team has attached over 35,000 patients to local Burnaby doctors and nurse practitioners. So we have a dedicated team that's what they do. That's their job, to keep attaching patients to family doctors. So check out that page if you're looking, and it'll give you instructions on how to get added to the Health Connect registry, which is the provincial wait list. And when you do that and you identify that you live in Burnaby, then you will be added to our Burnaby list, and hopefully you will hear from our team soon. I also share our Burnaby PCN, or Primary Care Networks website. And that has all kinds of social services, social supports that are available that we've pulled together with our Burnaby Division of Family Practice, Fraser Health Authority, and many community agencies here in Burnaby. So there's social supports for children and families, some financial supports, food and meals, harm reduction, some mental health supports, and supports for seniors. So there's a lot of services available for everyone out there. So please check those out. We do have a monthly newsletter. It's called The Checkup. And so we pull resources together and we share it in a newsletter. So if you sign up I'll post the most recent issue that went out this week, then you can just read it and then scroll to the bottom and subscribe. And then you'll start receiving it monthly as well. And lastly, we do an evaluation for each of these talks. It's about 8 questions. So please, once we close down the webinar, it'll pop up. Please take the time to complete it. It just gives Dr. Wong and I an idea of how we're doing, how you like these sessions. It will ask you where you've heard about our talks. So we don't have a budget for promotions. We use whatever free ways to promote at rec centers and the libraries and social media. And we have people at the hospital. So different people that we've identified that help us promote these talks. So yeah, we'd like to know where you hear about them. And also if you are not yet on our email list and receive invitations to these talks, you can just add your email there. That's the last question. If you already get emails from me, you don't have to do that. But I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Wong.
Great. Thanks, Leona. And thanks for all you do for our community. So
My
everyone can
pleasure.
see my slides. Yeah. So the topic today are the keys to positive change, transforming our bad habits into healthy ones. This is based on my experience just with achieving my own goals and then also working with my patients. So these are kind of time-tested, patient-tested, and personally tested strategies for achieving your goals. And of course, this is part of an initiative of the Burnaby Division of Family Practice. So do check out our website and the other resources that Leona has listed in the chats. Just a reminder of the overall theme of our public education program, the Empowering Patients program, that real healthcare is self-care, not just the stuff that doctors, nurse practitioners, and other allied healthcare professionals do for you, but you're the one that has to do all the important things, the healthy eating, the exercise, taking medications if you need to, doing monitoring for chronic conditions. We're here as your resource and to help motivate you. But there is a lack of good objective knowledge in the community, and it's not your fault. We're inundated with information that's quite biased on the media, on television, even in the news. There's always some slant to health articles and health programs that you're seeing on the nightly news. It's often the disease or the condition of the day. So we're trying to give you good objective information that will help you with your own self-care. The best predictor of your future health are the habits that you practice every day, at least those things that we can predict. And that gives you a lot of power over your present and future health. So the 4 foundations of self-care, according to my own model, are what you eat, what you put into your body, what you do, physical activity balanced with appropriate rest, how you feel, emotional well-being, and how we connect our relationships. So the 4 foundations of self-care and of your overall health in general. So how does everyone feel about change? It's almost like a 4-letter word because it usually creates a lot of resistance in most of us if there's going to be a change in our routines, change in the weather, change in political environment, change in the presidency of the United States. All these things can be really unnerving and stressful because of the unknown. So that can be quite distressful. And we've had so much change, particularly since the beginning of the pandemic. But we've all adapted. We've learned to adapt and learn new ways of coping. So every one of us kind of likes a balance between the stable and predictable, but we also need a little bit of stimulation and novelty to constantly improve. If we didn't have some challenge or novelty, we'd be really bored, just like a job that's just too easy, that's well below your abilities and your resources. But if we have too much change or too much to do or too much to adapt to, we get really stressed as well. And again, people get overwhelmed with stress. So I don't allow any bad words in the office with staff or others, but we do allow 1 4-letter F word if people are overwhelmed with change. And of course, that word is flux, F-L-U-X, which by definition is change. So we're always in a state of flux or change. That's the reality of the world out there, and that's the reality of our bodies themselves. So everything is constantly changing. Nothing stays the same every day, but that's part of life. If things stay the same every day, we're probably not alive. And even every cell of your body is in constant change. Not one cell in your body has been there since the day you were born. They're all getting replaced and changing over time. And that's not necessarily aging, it's also growth and adaptation as well. And we sometimes think of ourselves as pretty stable throughout our own life, but just reflect back your beliefs and your abilities when you were 5 years old compared to when you were 10 years old and when you're 20 and when you're 30 and your current age now, and how your outlook, how you see yourself and other people in the world, and maybe even some of your values may have evolved and changed and grown over time, and how you become stronger and more skilled in some ways, and just how different you are compared to the past. So every aspect of our lives, even our own psychology and self-concept and view of the world, is always changing. That's part of good health. So we have a choice. We can resist change or complain about it or get really mad about it or pine for the past that seemed to be so perfect in retrospect. Or we have to accept change. But what's useful is a growth mindset, knowing that every one of us, everyone here and everyone you know, does have the capacity to learn, adapt, to grow, and to change in a positive way. We can change our thoughts, our beliefs, and our behavior. So improve our conditions and improve our relationships as well. So we each can be agents of positive change in our world and in our own lives. So there is that superpower that you may not know you've had unless you've seen our last talk on emotional well-being. And that's something called metacognition. So it's our ability to recognize our own thoughts, our beliefs and emotions, and not only to be able to recognize them when they pop up, but also to transform and change them. We have two hemispheres of our brain, the left and the right. The left side of the brain is traditionally the one we use most of the time when we're at work or at school. It's the one that discriminates, that judges things, that compares things, that looks for danger, looks for things that are wrong. It helps us set a lot of our goals. And it also creates our personal narrative, our life story. Um, but that can get us stuck in certain ways of thinking, as we'll talk about in how the brain works, in the concept of neuroplasticity. We'll talk about how things that we repeat over and over again, like habits and behaviors, and even ways of thinking, can become almost hardwired. And it takes some work to get out of those old habits of thinking and behaving and getting into positive new habits. So we could transform things with the function of the right side of the brain, which is more connected to our true self, our greatest values, our sense of connection to one another, and our connection with our environment, with society, and with all life on the planet. So we'll take you through 4 steps towards positive change. The first is to choose wisely, to choose goals that are right for you. I learned early in practice that doctor's orders are often not followed if the doctor is not listening to what the patient wants to do, what they're motivated to do. Step number 2 is to plan well, to create a really specific plan for that improvement that you want to do. So often the recommendations we give to patients may fall flat and the patient won't be successful, not to their fault, but because we haven't supported them in creating a plan that will work for them and anticipated any roadblocks as well. And then thirdly, we'll talk about understanding the way habits are formed. And then finally, a useful tool for visualizing success to increase the likelihood of positive change in your life. So we'll take you through this step by step, but that first most important part is to choose wisely, to really choose goals that resonate with who you really are, what your values are. So first of all, what is your goal and why? So what I'd like you to do to get the most out of this evening's talk is to think about some area of your life, not a whole bunch of areas, but some area of your life that you'd like to improve in a positive way. And also we're going to question just to yourself why you want to make that change and why it's important to you. So the first thing is to look at your most important values. So we all have different values. So I'll just show you a general list of values. So what's most important to you? Is it having fun? Is it getting ahead? Is it spending time with family? Is it relationships? Is it personal achievement? What kind of personal qualities are really important to you, like honesty and reliability? Is it your faith? Um, is it to achieve a particular station in life? So to look at what your most important values are. So here's a few that you can just look at and kind of ponder to see which of those resonate with you, and probably a number of them will. So it's good to keep those in mind and to spend some time, maybe this weekend, kind of reflecting on your most important values, because we often have a variety of values. Some of them we adopt from society, some of them from our parents or upbringing, sometimes from our faith. But see which really ring true to you, which make you feel really motivated, which make you feel you're moving towards the proper goal. So that could be growth, being compassionate, um, serving a greater good, serving all of society, or it could be just the importance of your personal relationships. So just reflect on some of these. These slides will be available usually within a day or so. Leona will put up on the website, so you'll be able to have copies of these slides as well as the key points handout that's kind of summarizes a lot of the take-home messages. So my definition of health is a little bit different from the standard that you might think about. A lot of people think of health when they think about disease. So it's actually avoiding disease or living longer or relieving suffering. But I think of it in a positive way. I think of health as a dynamic balance of the important areas of your life and achieving your positive potential in each area. It's also experiencing your unique purpose in life and sense of meaning. So I created this little mandala about 2 decades ago. So it looks a little bit like yin and yang, but it looks at some of the important areas of your life. So it covers most of the things that can occupy our time. I'll just carry you around from the top and go clockwise. So starting rest and play, we need that type of balance. We need to attend to our social lives outside of the home and outside of work. We need to attend to physical health, which most people see the doctor for. We need to attend to our environment, either at home, in our community, or at work or school. We need to spend some time thinking about our finances, just so that we have enough so that we can afford a healthy diet and look after the things that are important to us, especially our family. There's the sphere of work, doing meaningful work that's not overly stressful, but significantly challenging, but most importantly, meaningful to us. And the important area of family, the health of our minds, the health of our emotions, and the health of our spirit. So what I would do with my little mandala, I would just put it in a very private place, like the washroom, and then kind of ponder on how I'm doing in two of those little spheres each day of the week. And then on the weekend, really reflecting on how I'm meeting my calling. Because so often in life, one area of your life can kind of be overwhelming and take control, and then we neglect another area. Like we can get so busy at work that we're neglecting our family or friends, or we can get so busy with our social life that we're ignoring our family, or we can get so occupied with school or some project that we don't look after our physical health or our emotional health. So it's good to kind of reflect on your goals and just doing a rough assessment of where you are throughout the week in all the important areas of your life. So I think of health as kind of a balancing act. So we never ever have it really perfectly, but we just want to have that healthy balance and know that there's constant changes in each of those areas of your life and different stages of life. So it's kind of moving targets that we're juggling, but that's part of the challenge and the joy of life as well. So true health, in my opinion, is a dynamic and harmonious balance of all the important areas of your life and moving towards your positive potential in each of them. And just thinking about what your personal goals are in each of those areas. So I'll give you a few ideas to think about. These happen to be mine. They don't have to be yours, but just some kind of ideas of how you might think about what your personal goals are or values for each sphere of your life. So in that social sphere, I think it's important to have a sense of belonging and a sense of place within the greater society and your community, to be able to relate well with others, your neighbors, and others in your city, and have a supportive network of friends that you can turn to. You don't have to have 150 close friends. You just need a good number of friends that you can be yourself, that share your values, that bring out the best in you and you bring out the best in them. And also some really important intimate relationships that you can share your soul, your warts as well as your qualities and your dreams and aspirations and also your disappointments. So someone that you can share these important things with. So you don't need to have 150 friends, but it's really important to have a few people that you really feel connected to and feel accepted just as you are. When you think about your physical health, we all have different goals, but I think of it as having a well balanced diet and maintaining a healthy body weight, to do regular exercise that's well rounded. So, exercising the heart and lungs, that some strength training to maintain your muscle mass and the strength of your bones. That involves some flexibility, balance to avoid injuries, and alignment of the body as well. We have to think about habits that are harmful to us, like alcohol, like more than 2 drinks in a week, smoking, vaping, other drugs that are deleterious to our mental or physical health. And if you do have chronic conditions, which we all will have eventually, that we're managing it well. So you can still be healthy even with chronic conditions. And it really requires the support of your healthcare team and your family to manage that all well. And these are ongoing topics of our Empowering Patients program. So you can look at our past talks for ideas if you want to work on your physical health, including healthy physical activity, healthy diet, and chronic disease management. So those are all topics that we've done and topics that are coming up this season as well. When you think about your environment, think about your home. Do you feel comfortable? How is your workplace in terms of air quality and lighting and noise control? Do you feel crowded? Do you feel safe in your home environment and in your world? So some of these things are not within our control, but in any situation, we have to accept the things we can't change, but recognize those things that are within our control that we can change or contribute to, or be able to connect with those that can help us improve our conditions. In terms of finances, it's important to have an adequate income, not to be a millionaire, but not so that you're overwhelmed with the stress of debt. To have realistic plans for achieving your financial goals. Pretty hard to buy a home in Greater Vancouver, and it's quite expensive to rent as well. So that's a big challenge that has caused a lot of emotional stress, and it has a big effect on the health of my patients as well, financial stress. And to think about having adequate savings and insurance in case of emergencies, which we can never predict. So it's not usually something that a doctor can help you with. There's other experts that can help us. But this is often a cause for a lot of stress, depression, and anxiety, and that affects the physical health of my patients. And if you're working, ideally the challenge of your work is matched by your personal resources, both the time and the support that you're getting. I see a lot of patients that are really burnt out because their company has been bought out, things are downsizing, they're doing the work of 3 people that have been laid off, and they just can't keep up. And then that stress kind of pours out into the rest of their lives, their sleep, and they can't stop thinking about work. So just finding that right balance is kind of a sweet spot that a lot of us don't have a lot of control over. And kind of doctors, especially family doctors, are experts on feeling burnt out. So we're working on that as well. You have to have work that's consistent with your values and that's really meaningful for you and where you have a sense of control. So I really enjoy my work. It's really gratifying to have the knowledge and the connection with my patients that I've known, many actually for 3 decades, that we have kind of mutual trust and confidence, and both the desire for them to be as healthy and happy as they can be, and to improve their relationships as well. In the area of family, it's important for me to spend enough time with each member of my family and to maintain a really good relationship with each one of them. Important for me to have a really good relationship with my wife, because I really believe a happy wife makes for a happier life, and to derive real satisfaction in spending time with the family. So, as I mentioned, the rest of our lives, like school or work and other things, can really take control of our lives. But at the end of life, it's really our relationships, our closest friends, our family that we realize are the most important things. No one really dies or comes to the end of their life feeling that they should have worked an extra day. But we all want to spend extra time with the people we really care about and to get the most of our relationships. When we think about the health of the mind, you think about using your cognitive skills, keeping an open mind, being a lifelong learner. Because although people used to think that our brains are limited and stop growing and adapting, your brain can change all the way up into your 80s and 90s. Uh, so my dad's turning 95 in March, and he he actually did something for the first time. He's now a published author. So his chapter is in a book called A Place Called Cumberland, and he actually talked about his childhood. One of the chapters is growing up in the Cumberland Chinatown from the 1930s to the 1950s. So it's about his early experiences, um, yeah, of 90 and 80 years ago. So not even 95 years old, and he is for the first time a published author. So I'm really proud of my dad. So we can learn new things and do new things at any stage of our life. Uh, and we can always change our points of view as we learn new things. So amazingly, my dad is able to use like an iPad and learning to use a smartphone. And if he has something new or challenging, he can ask myself or my sister or one of the grandkids. But he often goes to the Burnaby Public Library, and people are so nice. The staff there are so nice in helping him to do new things, and so he's always learning. So we can learn at any time. And the area of our emotions, to have mutually loving relationships, to appreciate the views and feelings of others, which is empathy, to be aware of our own emotional states, having that insight, and be able to manage our emotions, even when we're feeling a little angry or depressed or anxious, to be able to manage those with what we call metacognition. And in the field of rest and play, are you getting enough sleep? Like not feeling tired when you wake up in the morning, feeling refreshed from your breaks throughout the day, having a variety of non-work interests like sports or other hobbies, and are you nurturing a sense of creativity? Um, Things that you're creating, like writing or music or art or dance. And then finally, spiritual. well-being? Do you have a sense of purpose in your life? Do you have a sense of trust in the universe? Do you have a moral compass or a code of ethics that you're adhering to? And are you living in accord with your most deepest values? And finally, in that center of my mandala is my calling, which can change at different times depending on the needs of the world. And your calling is that intersection of course, your values, but what you really care about, what you love to do, what you do best, and what the world needs. So that intersection, that sweet spot, is our calling for life, or the calling of the moment at different stages of our life. So you're welcome to use that. It's in the slides. So you're welcome to use that or modify it. But the most important is that when you reflect on each of those important areas of your life, to choose your own goals, the goals that resonate with you. So my goals won't be the same as your goals. And of course, your calling will be quite different from my calling. So once you've decided on a goal, it's important to kind of go backwards. So I use a technique called the 5 whys. So actually, the 5 whys is usually used in big organizations, like in companies or corporations, or even actually in our own prime care clinic, when um, when mistakes occur, as they may do in the hospital or clinic, we want to identify what the cause was. So sometimes there's an obvious or proximate cause that we'll identify, like often we'll blame the person that made the mistake. I'll give an example. So a patient was given the wrong dose of a medication and had a side effect from it. So whose fault is it? So of course, the medication was given by the nurse, but did the nurse give the patient the wrong medication? Well, it wasn't the nurse's fault. It was because of the order that was written by the doctor, and it was written and it couldn't be read, and there was confusion between one drug and another drug, or confusion about the dose because it was given in units of micrograms when it should have been milligrams. And then why did that happen? It's because the organization didn't have a standardized way of preventing those things. So that's how a healthcare facility or organization will look at a negative outcome and then try to look at the root causes, not just the proximate cause. So it wasn't the nurse's fault. It wasn't totally the doctor's fault for his messy, confusing writing. Um, but so to prevent those problems, now in all our hospitals in BC, we have kind of a standard way that medications that are easily confused, that we have certain things, banning certain abbreviations, banning certain ways of writing out a number so that it could be confused. So little steps that are going to prevent that original root cause to the problem. So when I want you to use the 5 whys for uncovering your deeper motivations for a particular goal is when you come up with a goal, ask yourself, why do I want to do this particular goal? So if your goal is to have a particular car, so you're going to work really hard, earn lots of money, and to buy a particular sports car, you have to ask yourself, why do I want to work hard and get that sports car? Does this actually resonate with my deeper goals? And then you ask, really, why? Because it's really fast, it's kind of prestigious. And you ask, well, why would I want that? Because, well, because that you're trying to show off, or you equate that with personal value. So when you get down to the whys underneath it, you might realize, well, maybe that's not such a deep and important goal to me. If you're going to ask why you want to start exercising, like running a marathon or running a triathlon, you'd have to look at underneath why you want to do that. Is it because your friends are doing it, because you want to prove something to yourself, or is it because you want to have a goal and to improve your overall fitness? So it's really important to kind of work on that and to look deep down inside to see what your ultimate reasons for achieving a particular goal is. So it might have us to change your goal. So kind of reflect on the goal that you've chosen to see if it resonates with your values. So once you've chosen your goal, hope you have one in mind, we need to plan well so that we're more likely to be successful. So if a big corporation or a company has a particular goal, they need to plan. They need a strategic plan. So what are the steps and what are the resources they need to get to that goal? And then what are the activities they need to do every day to move towards the successful execution of that plan? So that plan should be really concrete, achievable steps or routines. And that's why we're talking about habits, because our habits that we choose are steps towards a particular goal. They could be little sub goals in themselves, but they're moving towards something that's more important to us. So think of these little steps as little incremental steps that we're going to achieve, and then we set another goal to move a little bit further along towards your bigger desired goal of being healthier, being happier, being more connected with the important people in your life, to get into a better mood, to manage anxiety, to eat a healthier diet. So an important thing is to think about your confidence and motivation when you picked a particular goal. So when you think about the goal that you have in mind, ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to complete this goal? And if your motivation is at a 9 or 10, basically 8 or higher, then that's great. You probably have lots of reasons to achieve that goal. And you looked at when you've asked yourself all the whys, you can see it really resonates with what's important to you, to your values, and where you'd like to see yourself. But if your motivation is like 1 or 2, then you probably need more reasons to achieve that goal, or it doesn't really resonate to what's really important to you. So if I had a patient that picked a particular goal to do more exercise or to cut down on drinking, I will ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to start this goal tomorrow? And if they pick only 1 or 2, then I'll probably ask them a few questions, kind of get at the reasons why they want to do that goal. But I might turn it around. I might say, you've only rated it as a 2, which I'm wondering why you didn't rate it as like a 0 or a 1. And then the individual, you would probably ask yourself, well, because I just learned that alcohol causes cancer, and that there is no guaranteed safe level of alcohol, but they do say that lower risk drinking would be 2 or fewer drinks in a week. And I've been drinking 2 or 3 drinks every night because everyone else was doing it and it was socially acceptable. And they used to say red wine was healthy for us. But now we know that the evidence has changed. And then sometimes after reflecting on that, our motivation increases because it kind of connects to a goal of avoiding illness but improving our health. But if we try and we can't really get motivated about that goal, you probably should pick another goal, something that really resonates, that you can get to an 8, 9, or a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. And then also check in on the confidence. So once you have a particular goal, like if your goal is to do the sun run in April, what is your confidence from 1 to 10? Like 10, you know you could do it for sure. 1, you're not sure at all, probably think you can't do it. So if you have a high confidence level, that could be good as long as it's realistic confidence. But if it's ranked pretty low, then it probably means we probably should set a more achievable goal, or maybe turning that mountain into a little hill so it's more achievable. So maybe setting a short-term goal that'll be much more likely to be successful. So you might change that goal to be able to walk and run for 30 minutes in the next month, and then set up a little routine to gradually increase from alternating between walking 2 minutes and jogging a bit for a minute, and gradually increasing from doing a little bit more jogging rather than the walking. So doing a small incremental increase will improve our confidence. Once we've achieved our smaller goal, then we can move towards a greater goal. And it might be possible to be ready to do the sun run, or at least to walk it by April. So again, check into your confidence and your motivation level. And we want to translate those goals into habits. So little stepwise routines. So, so these are habits that we can establish. So habits are unconscious and automatic behaviors that we do, just like the habit of brushing your teeth or taking a shower at a particular time of the day. Just those routines that we do so many times, it becomes almost automatic and almost effortless. So we want to make our new behaviors almost effortless too. But we do know it takes a little bit of planning and a little bit of effort at the beginning. So I'll share some keys to positive new habit formation. So habits do matter because what we do each day has a cumulative effect. It's like compound interest. Saving a little bit every day, it really accumulates over time. Like a 1% improvement every day is 100% improvement in just over 3 months. So what we do each day has a cumulative effect on every aspect of our lives. And our habits actually define who we want to be and who we are. And we really want to consciously foster positive habits to become even better versions of ourselves in the future. So imagine what your life would be like, or who you would be if you had made different choices and had different habits. Or, yeah, so you'd be totally different persons, like Doctor Strange in different multiverses, just depending on the choices you make for your daily habits. And thinking about your future self, you recognize how much you can actually change. So there's a fallacy we all have. As I mentioned, when you think back of how much you changed in the past, that's easy for us to recognize that, well, our thinking and our abilities have changed so much since we were toddlers and since we were in elementary school and since we've been in high school or early 20s. So you recognize how much we've changed and evolved and how much more we know what we can do now. But most of us underestimate how much we can possibly change in the future, not realizing that our opinions can change quite drastically and our abilities can change so much. So this is called the end of history fallacy, thinking that who we are in the future is going to be pretty close to what we are right now. But you can continue to grow, and you definitely will continue to grow and evolve. But it makes sense if you want to be your best self in the future. Uh, that's dependent on the choices and the behavior and the actions you do every day. So your present self actually creates your future self. So we want to make choices today and act daily to create that positive future. So we ought to act as the kind of person that each of us wishes to become. So James Clear in his popular book, Atomic Habits, which I just have it right over here. So this book is like a real deep dive, so it takes a while to read. But I'm going to share just some of the highlights. But I do recommend if you want to do a deep dive and understand habits inside out, that's a great popular book. That's done really well because a lot of the advice is really effective and evidence-based. You should always begin with your end in mind and imagine where you would like to be, what you want to achieve, or who you would like to be remembered at the end of your life. So what did your actions say about you? And what will be the legacy of your activities and your relationships? Once you're ready to set a goal, you should make sure that it follows the criteria for the smartest goals. So smartest is just an acronym. You may have heard of SMART goals, but in Burnaby, of course, we go for the smartest goals. So the goal that you're planning to do, it's really important that it's number one, specific. So not just that I want to eat healthier, what specifically am I going to do? What am I going to eat more of? What am I going to eat less of in the short term to improve my diet? I don't want to just be more physically active. Specifically, what exercise am I going to be doing it? M means measurable. So how much or how long How far am I going to ride? When am I going to ride? Achievable means something that's realistic and doable. So rather than a crazy goal of swimming 2 kilometers off the bat, front crawl every day of the week, you'll start with um, just doing a variety of strokes, swimming maybe 10 or 15 minutes, or getting swimming lessons so that you can swim for longer periods of time. So currently I swim 2 kilometers or 80 lengths at Bonser Pool 5 days a week. Takes me about 45 minutes. So I do that every day. So 80 lengths back and forth every morning, usually around 6, 7 a.m. And then on the weekends, I go to Eileen Daily. Same thing, because it's the only pool that opens at 6 a.m. So 7 days a week, I swim 2 kilometers front crawl nonstop every day. But I didn't start off that way. So 20 years ago, I was training for a triathlon. And I started swimming just so that I could swim up to a kilometer, but I started low, started with doing 20 lengths and then 30 lengths and resting and then practicing, improving my technique. So setting smaller achievable goals, because if I went really hard to the ultimate goal, then I would just burn out, get injured, get exhausted, get really sick, and then give up altogether. So you have to start with things that are small and achievable. And then when you build upon it, you might be surprised where you end up. Or the goal has to be relevant, so important to you and your health and aligned with your values. T is for time frame. When you're going to start your goal, when you're going to finish and reevaluate. E is for evaluate. Ask how you did, what did you learn, what will you change. E means you have to make it enjoyable as well. You have to make that goal fun. And then S is for stepping forward. What are you going to do next? Once you've achieved that smaller goal, what will you do differently? And then finally, T is for together. Who are you going to work with? Who will you share your success with? Who are you going to invite, which your friends or family are you going to invite to join you in achieving their goals and working together? So smartest goals. These are the key things to be more successful. So we're on to number 3, understand how habits are formed. So I'm going to borrow a lot from Atomic Habits and another really good book by another psychologist now named BJ Fogg called Tiny Habits. So those are really practical and they're tips that you can put into play tomorrow morning or tonight if you want. So our brain has this network called the default mode network. So if we're not focused on a particular task or goal, and when we're not being mindful and meditating, our brain kind of goes into daydreaming mode. And in that default mode is how a lot of our habits of thought are formed. So I'm going to guide you through James Clear's habit loop. So this is actually old information from what we know about habits, but he's made it pretty catchy and practical. So the 4 parts of his habit loop are: number 1 is the cue that tells you when to do the action. 2 is craving or attraction to do that activity. 3 is your response or behavior. And 4 is the reward you get from doing that behavior. So cue and craving, response and reward. So these are important parts of the formation of both good and bad habit. So cue is the context or trigger. So an example would be when you're bored, when you're in an elevator, when you're watching TV. These could be the cues for example, if you're bored in an elevator, you might pull out your phone and start scrolling without thinking about it, and then waste a lot of time or get distracted, or not talk to the people that are sitting at the table in front of you. It's close to Chinese New Year's, but I remember Chinese New Year's when all the grandkids and my kids were elementary and high school. And then I came a little bit late, and everyone had their head down around the table. And I said, "Oh, I came just when they were praying," but I had a closer look, and they were all on their phones, sitting around a big round table, 10 of them just looking at their phones, not actually talking or praying. So phones are kind of a habit that we've adapted. So people pull them out as soon as they go in the elevator, or when they get an alert. That's a trigger for them to open up their smartphones or devices. Or when we're watching TV, that could be the cue to getting the munchies and going over and opening a bag of chips and eating things that you feel not so good about later. So number one is the cue that triggers that response. Two comes just before you do it, and that's the desire to do that action. So examples are that desire for junk food, and of course, TV is a great trigger because they show us these giant, juicy hamburgers like every 15 minutes. Or it can be that desire for chocolate, your favorite treats, to drink alcohol, to smoke cigarettes. So there's a craving just before that action that attracts us to do that action, often at a subconscious level. And finally, the behavior itself is the response, which could be grabbing a bag of chips, lighting a cigarette, um, turning on our smartphones, and then finally the reward, the immediate positive feedback, because that's really important to reinforce that behavior. So of course, if we eat a whole bag of chips, then we're going to feel full, temporarily satisfied. People that crave for nicotine, once they get a hit of nicotine, then they're getting some relief or stimulation. And the same with alcohol. People feel more relaxed or temporarily relieved of their anxiety. So cue, the context or trigger for the behavior, craving, the desire, response, the behavior itself, and then reward, that reinforcement, the positive feedback you get from doing that action, even with bad habits. So if you want to create a good habit, you want to make that cue really obvious. An example would be if you want to have healthier snacks when you're watching TV, then you'd want to put the fruit bowl on top of the TV. And if you want to get rid of the bad habit of eating the chips, you would probably not buy the chips, or you put them in a pantry at the far end of the house, or you actually lock it up. If you want to go for a walk when you come home from work at the end of the day, you can make the cue your workout clothes right at the front door, including those runners, shorts or sweatsuit, whatever you need, so that it makes it really easy and it's your cue and your reminder. So craving, you want to make that behavior as attractive as possible. So you might want to pair an action that you really want to do with something that you need to do. So if you want to go for a walk or a swim, you probably should kind of pair it to spending time with people like your best friends or your spouse or one of your kids. So you can have fun and time together at the same time as doing that physical activity. And then the response, you want to make it easy. And that's why we would probably set easier goals at the beginning, like swimming a little bit less or going for a walk before we're going to start jogging. And if you want to drink more water rather than having any high calorie or alcoholic drinks, then you might just keep a pitcher and a glass for water on your desk, or a water bottle on your desk. Or you might, if you want to eat healthier snacks, you want to keep your fridge stocked with fresh fruit, just to make it really easy to do what you think is the right thing, what's best for your health. And finally, you want to make it satisfying. So one great way is to kind of keep track. So, so if you're tracking yourself, give yourself a high five, give yourself a little sticker, say something to yourself like nailed it, and then put a little check mark on the calendar that you've achieved your goal that day. So they might seem like silly things, but they give you a boost in dopamine in your brain, and that reinforces the behavior. So you're more likely to do it again and again and again. So again, those 4 little tips for creating good habits from James Clear's Atomic Habits. make the cue obvious, attend to craving, make it attractive, make the response really easy to do, and reward yourself immediately so that it's satisfying. So I'll move over to the other tips, the simple tips from BJ Fogg in the book Tiny Habits. So he talks about the ABCs of habit formation. A is for anchor, to an anchor behavior. It's almost like a cue. B is for the behavior itself, and C is the celebration, which is the reinforcement. So number one, so you kind of create these little recipes. Number one is to make the behavior really tiny. That's why he says tiny habits. Make it really, really easy. So that's what we were talking about with smartest goals, having something that's really achievable. So make the behavior tiny, one easy step towards your goal. Like your goal is to floss your teeth every night. But you can make the goal but some people say, oh, that takes so long, so much trouble. But if you make the goal really simple, like flossing one tooth instead of flossing all your teeth, then you're more likely to do it. You want to hook that behavior to an anchor. So an anchor behavior. So a simple one is a routine that you're already doing. Like we're already brushing our teeth at night. So brushing your teeth before you go to bed, that's going to be like your cue. And then BJ Fogg calls it a little hook or anchor. We're going to connect the flossing of one tooth to brushing our teeth. And number three in this recipe is to celebrate immediately. So that could be giving yourself a thumbs up, uh, applause, or hearing applause like a crowd cheering for you, or just telling yourself nailed it, or giving yourself a high five in the mirror. It sounds really silly, but if you actually do it or imagine doing it, you actually get a shot of dopamine and you'll probably be smiling at the same time. So that gives you immediate reinforcement and does increase the likelihood that you're going to repeat the behavior. So BJ Fogg calls it little tiny habit recipes that integrates that anchor, the behavior, and the celebration. After I brush my teeth at night, I will floss one tooth and celebrate immediately by saying, nicely done. So the ABCs. And what you'll find is that if you floss one tooth, you've overcome some momentum and you're probably going to be flossing more than one tooth. And almost guaranteed that within a week, you'll be flossing all your teeth. So this becomes so achievable that after about 10 days, it becomes automatic. And then you're ready to move on to another goal. So check out tinyhabits.com. So they actually give you some of these tips in depth as well. Or you can look at his book or borrow it from the library as well. So Carl Jung, famous psychotherapist and psychiatrist, said that until you make the unconscious conscious, as we are with our habits, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So this puts you back in your driver's seat, controlling our habits and turning the brain off the autopilot. A lot of us have habits of thought, and often they become our core beliefs. They're kind of set through early life from our experiences and our misinterpretations of how we were treated, or actually how we were treated, and the events of our life. So a lot of us have these little limiting beliefs that prevent us from achieving happiness or limit our success. So one is I have to be perfect to be loved. And that makes people kind of move towards trying to achieve and getting approval from other people. So we can get on a treadmill like that with work and then realizing if we're not asking ourselves where this motivation comes from and asking the 5 whys, then we will find ourselves achieving that goal, but never really being satisfied. Some of us, because of being betrayed by others, being abused by others, we lose our trust. So some people believe they can't trust anyone. And because of past experiences, people can think that life is unfair. Sometimes because of being put down, bullying in childhood, We might think that we're not good enough, that we don't deserve success, happiness, or love. Or because we weren't empowered when we were younger, we may feel powerless. So it's helpful for us to dig deep and kind of examine what our core beliefs, these thoughts that keep coming up, and ask yourself, are they working for you? Do they bring you closer to or further from others? Do they bring you closer or further from society? And do they bring you closer or further from your goals? Do they foster positive feelings like love, connection, and peace? And do they foster positive actions like creativity and kindness and generosity? So I'd like to share some positive core beliefs that I try to reinforce in myself and the people that I can support. I am a part of a greater whole, part of a family, and a member of this community, the Burnaby community, Greater Vancouver, BC, and Canada. I have a unique positive potential, my gift to the world, and I believe that every one of us has that positive potential and a unique gift to the world. And I can make a positive difference with actions that could be great and even actions that are small. I am continually learning and growing, and I can adapt to any change. Now, life is all about change because we're constantly changing. So we have to accept change and embrace it and use what we know and what we can do to not only cope with change, but become an agent of positive change. Because change is the nature of all things. It's, again, part of our life, part of our bodies and our minds. It's part of human nature and all things on earth. So we have to accept the things we can't change, but accept responsibility to change the things that we can. So we can all be agents of positive change, to be dynamically responsive to the changes in our lives and to seek out the positive potential of every moment. Because there's always someone else that needs help. We all have the possibility of making somebody else's day just with striking up a conversation with a stranger, helping someone in need, offering a helping hand, offering a kind word, to help someone that looks lonely to feel connected again, and to say thank you to people that make a difference in your life every day. So these small things can really brighten up someone else's day. So pay attention when someone thanks you for something and how much better it makes you feel. It makes you feel acknowledged, it makes you feel seen. If you're feeling blue and someone reaches out to you and asks how you're doing, just let that unconditional love and that caring and that compassion soak in. And notice how you feel, how you can brighten someone else's day with a little act of kindness. So we have that positive potential of every moment and every day so that we can all be agents of positive change. We don't have to be superheroes, but we have to remember we have this superpower. So to summarize, choose the right goal that's based on your deepest personal values. So I hope you have one in mind. And if you don't, just go through the slides and the worksheets and work on it on this weekend. Because it's really important to plan, to have that smartest goal strategy, to work out the details, but to start with goals, um, using the ideas for reinforcing from Atomic Habits and from Tiny Habits, to start with small goals and to build upon them. And so that each day we're taking a step towards your positive future self and embracing the positive experience you're having right now. And then finally, we need to visualize our success. So Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see. And I implore you to see the change you wish to be, to visualize yourself achieving success. So I'd like you to do this little exercise, or invite you to do this little exercise with me. I'd like you to visualize yourself in the next day And when you're, whichever day in the next week that you would like to start doing your new healthy behavior. So you're going to reinforce that cue or anchor behavior, seeing yourself perform that desired behavior and really experiencing that positive feedback of performing your new behavior. And then we can also visualize ourselves in the near future having achieved our goal. So let's do that first exercise. So I'd like you to see yourself doing that action, that smartest goal that you've kind of worked out in your mind. It's a new routine. So it's very specific, you know, what you're going to be doing, um, you know, how long you're going to be doing it, and you know, where you're going to be doing it. And you feel really confident that you can do this first step. And it really resonates with your values. And you'll know that once you've achieved this goal and done it repeatedly over the next week, then you're going to evaluate and you're going to improve upon this goal, little step at a time. And you'll probably engage people that are important with you, people you enjoy being with, to share that goal and to join with you to make it even more likely to happen. So I'd like you just close your eyes and imagine yourself doing that action. So you notice that obvious cue that you set up to remind you when you're going to do that new behavior. And you feel a lot of desire to do it because you associate with a lot of positive feelings with people that you like to be with and the good feeling you're going to have. And it really resonates with what's important to you. And you find that you've chosen a goal that's actually pretty easy to do. It's a little bit of a challenge and you're conscious of it, but you're pretty confident and you can see yourself doing it and how good you feel doing it. Notice how your body feels, the positive sensations. What do you see around you? What do you smell? What you feel? And notice that positive reward you get from doing this activity. Give yourself a high five and say to yourself, I nailed it. Imagine yourself checking it off on the calendar that you achieved your goal. And notice, see those check marks accumulating over the week. And at the end of the week, you evaluate and see if you're going to change or modify your goal and move even closer to your ultimate goal of being healthier and happier and fitter. Now imagine yourself maybe a few months or maybe 6 months or a year from now. So you have achieved your bigger goal. You've established a new healthy routine. Maybe it's exercise or healthy eating or giving up alcohol. Um, and you notice how good you feel and you kind of think back with appreciation to your past self for what you've done over the past year, month by month, step by step. These changes that at first were a little challenging, but you did it in a stepwise way, and it became easier and easier and natural for you to live this new, healthier lifestyle. So now it's just automatic that you do this activity every day that's healthy and you still feel good and sufficiently challenged and satisfied and really positive about this activity. And you are so proud of yourself for what you've been able to invest and achieve and how you shared your success with people around you. You shared your goals and how they supported you and how proud they are of you. And at this future time, to bring forth all your sensations, those physical feelings, the emotional feelings that are positive, the sounds, the smell, the tastes, and the sights of having achieved your goal and just feeling so much better and healthier and positive with a great sense of confidence and a sense of control over your life. And you're so primed to choose even greater goals to achieve in all the important areas of your life. And reflect with that deep gratitude for all that you've done in the recent past to bring yourself step by step celebrating every step of the way. There were some unexpected or expected challenges that came up, but ultimately you perfected your new routine and you've arrived at a new way of doing and being that's become just so natural and positive. Good. So if your eyes are closed, you can open them now. And just to remind you that this ability to change and develop new habits is based on what we know about how our brains work. It's called neuroplasticity. So our habits of thought and behavior seem to be hardwired, but that's because of repetition. With effort and repetition, we can transform our own minds. That means change how we think, even those core beliefs that we carried for decades. And we can change our behavior. So again, with deliberate practice, we can transform our brain and move out of autopilot. We can learn new ways of thinking and feeling, creating new habits of thought, feeling, and being. And as the great Canadian neuropsychologist uh, Donald Hebb told us, neurons that fire together wire together. So neurons that fire in these pathways of certain ways of thinking and behaving just naturally coalesce together to create a network that creates the new habit. So this is how we adapt to our changing world. And what we focus on, we magnify. There's another principle of uh, neuroplasticity is attention deficit, or the quantum Zeno effect. So concentrated, intentional attention solidifies your new habits of thought, feeling, and intention. So focus on success. Because we're all evolving into our positive potential. We have so many potentials and so many areas that we can grow and adapt and improve. And really, it's in service of that dynamic calling, that intersection of your special talents, what you do best, your passions, what you love to do, and the needs of the moment of the world or the people in front of you. They intersect to create your calling. And as I said, there's a positive potential to be realized each day, but we have to see it and we have to feel it and we have to act. Because I really believe that each of us has a unique potential in life, and it's our duty to realize that potential and to help the people around us to achieve theirs. And we can all be agents of positive change in our individual lives, in our community, and in the whole world. And again, Gandhi told us that happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. So, together, let us be the change we wish to see and see the change you wish to be. So that's it for the formal presentation. So I know it's a ton of information. So I hope you have some questions or we're open to questions about the presentation, about healthy habits, or anything else you'd like to talk about.
Well, I will comment, Dr. Wong, that I did get up and grab a quick not so healthy snack just as you were talking about our food choices. So thank you for that. The Smarties just didn't taste as good. So we do have a question, and please feel free to pop them into the chat. How important do you feel volunteering would be to having a positive outlook and impact on life?
That's so important. Because volunteering is something really special. Like you're giving your time, you're doing it not because you're getting paid, and the gratification is that you're helping somebody else, probably someone in need, or animals in need, depending on what your volunteer work is. So I think it's really important, and it's just gratifying in itself. Just like the work that I do in the community and in my clinic, I feel really a lot of instant gratification when you're helping others. And it reinforces your value as an individual, the impact you can have for others. And it helps us recognize that others have needs, um, and it keeps us moving towards something bigger than ourselves rather than just doing things for ourselves.
Right. That's actually part of my retirement or / winning the lottery plan is if there's a day where I'm not going to be working for a living or need to work for a living, although I do love my job, don't get me wrong. It's volunteering. It's a big part of what I would do to fill my time. So it's pretty wonderful. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, we don't have any other questions. Now's your time, folks. Oh, yeah, David said, these are big ideas, the habits and their formation and the neuroplasticity, for example, was his comment. Are there any books you can recommend on these ideas?
Yeah, so I would start with Tiny Habits because it's a pretty simple recipe. So look at tinyhabits.com. I don't get any commission or anything, but I found it just so practical and useful for so many patients that BJ Fogg's formula for ABC, that anchor behavior, the tiny behavior you want to do, and that instant celebration. So that's really accessible. You can actually go to the website and then try out that formula on some small change you want to do, and you'd be amazed what you achieve in 10 days and then over a month. And of course, Atomic Habits you can find everywhere, like in the library. And it's a bigger one. It does a deeper dive into a lot of the research into habit formation. So a lot of other really useful inspirational quotes. And James Clear has a website and newsletter that comes every week that also gives a lot of motivational tips. So I would go there to both those books are good resources in both those websites.
That's great. Thank you. Well, folks, if anyone else has any questions, that'd be great. Otherwise, we nailed it. A whole lot of important information, and we nailed it in under time. So, if that's it, thank you so much, Dr. Wong. Thank you all for logging in tonight on this chilly Burnaby night, and hopefully we'll see you next time. So check out our website, check out the upcoming talks. Like I said, we're scheduled from February to April, and then May we will be outside, walk with your doc. But oh, looks like there's a question from Cynthia. Go ahead, Cynthia. We still have time. Oh, how do we share this talk? Okay, I can answer that one. For attending tonight, you're going to receive an email from Zoom. And what I do is I include the link to our website where the recording will be uploaded. So you can just share that whole page via email or your text or however you communicate with people. So so I do that usually the next morning. So keep an eye open for that email sometime tomorrow. Hopefully that helped. Great. Thank you so much. Excellent. Well, everyone have a great night. Don't forget to fill out our evaluation. And yeah, it was great to see you all. Well, see your names anyways. Thanks, Dr. Wong.
Yeah, and I wish every one of you great success in achieving your goals. And if at first you don't succeed, then you can always scale down the goals. There's always a step or a small step that you can achieve. And just think of my dad being like a first-time author before he's 95.
That's amazing. Your dad's amazing. Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, everybody.
It probably helped that I was his ghostwriter.
Oh,
And another secret was that Leona is working full time, but she actually does a ton of volunteer work. So I know she's really modest. She didn't want to share that, but she does a lot for our community. So thank you, Leona, for all the secret things you do for our community.
It's my pleasure. It keeps me out of trouble. Something's gotta.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing your time with me. I know it's really precious at this time. But again, I wish you great success in discovering your positive potential.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, folks. Good night.
Okay, good night, everyone.